Kirsten Lombard of the 912 Project, worried about the budget. A lot of people worried about this budget on a number of fronts, but you see some dangers there with the Common Core, right?
Yeah, there are a number of things about this budget that I'm not fond of. And, we see this regularly where non-fiscal policy is being pushed through in the budget. So I'm not a big fan of a lot of the measures that have been shoved into this particular proposed budget. But I'm also very concerned by some games that I see being played related to Common Core, which we were talking about before the break. Governor Walker has talked about the fact that he is defunding the Smarter Balanced tests, which are the enforcement mechanism for the Common Core state standards in Wisconsin. The wheels have really come off the Smarter Balanced bus, and there was a large outcry about that, not just from people who have concerns about Common Core, but also from people who had concerns about what this was, like administrators who were afraid of what was going to happen in their districts when they got graded on this, horrific test that wasn't even really ready for prime time. So Governor Walker's been talking about defunding these Smarter Balanced tests via the budget, and he's been running around telling people that, he's basically defeating Common Core by doing this. Well, there were a number of us who were suspicious about the language that was being used to defund these SBAC tests, SBAC being the abbreviation for Smarter Balanced. So essentially what we did is we started to look more closely at the language, and also started to look more closely at an RFP, a request for proposals, that was issued in April to request bids for replacement assessments for Smarter Balanced. And we now have hard evidence based on the 2 rounds of questioning that have come in from the bids and the answers that have come back from DPI, that the tests that replace Smarter Balanced will also be Common Core aligned. So, this is not undermining Common Core in any significant way. This is actually playing a game with the people of Wisconsin.
Which, boy, that's a shock.
Yeah.
Now, it seems you're driven, I think, by a suspicion of the homogenization of curriculum and of education. It threatens freedom, right? Is this what
Yes.
drives you on this?
Absolutely. Well, look, this country was built on the
You don't like this kind of conformity that's being imposed.
No, absolutely not. And when you have a centralized, standardized education, what you are doing is you are putting the ability to decide what every child in this country will learn into the hands of a very, very small number of people. And so whether you are somebody who identifies on the left, whether you're somebody who identifies on the right, there are going to be things being pumped into your child's brain that you're not going to like or approve of. And that kind of control is something that should be objectionable to everybody and anybody. It should be the parents. It should be the taxpayers. It should be the people at the local level who are deciding what is right and what isn't for children in their communities to be learning.
It's a problem for Jeb Bush in this race for the presidency, right? Because the people on the right, at least in the Republican Party, are not happy about this Common Core thing.
I think that Jeb is kind of up a tree with this whole thing. But frankly, so is Scott Walker. I mean, there are many other candidates who are kind of up a tree with Common Core.
But they see you coming. I tell you, you're like their biggest nightmare. I can see that right now. Why is that woman in this building? I don't. This woman is.
Stop.
Get her outside. Don't let her in. But Jeb just says, I'm for standards.
Yeah, and you know what? I can at least respect him for coming out fully in favor of the Common Core and being honest about that. I mean, he's got financial stakes in this. There's some pretty hefty financial ties to Common Core for Mr. Bush. But at least he comes out and tells you what he wants and where he stands. I have a lot less respect for somebody like Scott Walker, who pretends to be against the standards because he knows it's what the base wants to hear. It's what people out there expect to hear at this point, but who really behind the scenes is doing nothing but working to entrench the standards in his own state.
I recall when Tommy Thompson called together a bunch of experts, and they had a commission on educational standards. I don't know if you recall this, it was 20 years ago. And they said, our standards suck, and we got to elevate. And DPI was going to put together this thing. And all these educators put together a manual. And when it finally finished, I looked at it, and it got a retiring English teacher from East High to grade it. And it was just replete with grammatical errors, syntax. I mean, it was atrociously written. And so we just had some fun with it. But it showed you who's setting the standards. They can't write.
Right?
What a joke!
Yeah, right. I mean, but this is frankly the result of years of increased centralization and standardization. I mean, you're looking at exactly that. When you have that kind of centralization and standardization, even the people who are writing the standards end up being affected by the low quality.
Well, and the people, they don't care as much as people. So what I love to see are site-based committees at every school. And you had parents who care and teachers who care, and they would be appointed by the principal, who's like a head coach. If the team loses, the head coach gets fired, right? And they would then report to the board, to the elected school board. Here's what's going on in this school, in our school, and yada, yada. Because they would know. They would have more of a direct hands-on knowledge. And then from there, the school board could decipher that information as opposed to coming from who knows what. You go to a school board meeting and the board will say, what about this? And they'll bring the business manager out and they'll answer a question according to what they want the results to be. So you don't get a sense that it's organic. It's not bottom up.
Right. Well, that's exactly right. And you certainly see that with Common Core. Common Core is actually, when you start really digging into it, this is a huge part of an overarching economic development and workforce development scheme. So this is government and big business holding hands to create the kinds of citizens and workers that they want. And that sounds Orwellian, and it sounds a little nuts, but when you dig into it, I mean, that's really what it is. And I can actually, if people are interested in learning more about this, they can go to resoundingbooks.org and look at our blog, and there's all sorts of great articles and materials up on that blog at this point that prove exactly what I'm saying.
You're down there with the pitchforks on this, aren't you?
Yeah. Pretty much.
Mad as hell and not going to take it anymore.
I'm working to not take it anymore, yeah.
Now, and the Common Core is your big area, but I mean, you're against top-down elitism and centralization across the board.
Absolutely.
Right? So you're more Jeffersonian than Hamiltonian. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely right.
Although you don't have slaves, we should point that out.
Yeah, I don't. I wish I had somebody to do my dishes.
No affair with Sally Hemings. Well, I'd do it for maybe $8 an hour.
Would you?
Yeah.
I might call you.
I'll have your people call my people. We'll draw something up.
Excellent.
Kirsten Lombard, it's always great to have you on.
Thanks so much,
Continued
Mitch.
good luck. And your book, Common Ground on Common Core.
Absolutely.
Available
at resoundingbooks.org.
Resoundingbooks.org. Hey, only the smart people are allowed on.